Welcome to Episode 2 of Wissahickon School District's Community Connections.
Now, Keasbey and Madison quickly grew from a pharmaceutical plant to a plant that would construct asbestos shingles and asbestos piping. It became the asbestos capital of the world, Ambler, at one time, because they would use asbestos for a building material, they would use asbestos for insulation, and asbestos became as frequently used as plastic or Velcro would be used today. Well, Keasbey and Madison expanded their operations from one mill to a factory to several factories that all went along the railroad. And having such a large business attracted many immigrants, workers from Italy, who happened to settle in the Ambler area. Keasbey and Madison constructed a number of beautiful stone homes that exist in Ambler today. And if you walk the streets of Ambler, you'll see in different neighborhoods the style of architecture is varied, but the stone is all the same, taken from quarries in the immediate area. Dr. Madison constructed a mansion which exists today on Bethlehem Pike between Highland Avenue and Lindenwall Terrace. It is St. Mary's Manor, having been an orphanage back in the 1900s, but in the 1800s it was the home to Dr. Madison. If you take a walk back there, you'll see the house appears to be a castle, and there are beautiful gardens, formal gardens with ponds and statues that were reminiscent of a multi-millionaire who would live in England. These formal gardens were a pleasure to visit and were the hobby of Dr. Madison. Dr. Madison also built homes for his two sons that were very large and spacious. They are still standing today in the intersection of Highland Avenue and Bethlehem Pike is one of the homes, and the other is at the intersection of Lindenwald Avenue and Bethlehem Pike. Dr. Madison also rewarded his executives by building very large stone homes for them with towers and garages that would house the carriages that they would use to get back and forth to the factory. Many of these homes for the high-ranking executives were built on Lindenwall Terrace, which is just off of Bethlehem Pike and still exists today. But there was a hierarchy or a caste system for the workers at Keasbey and Madison's asbestos plant. The junior executives, they would be given homes that were built along a hillside on Hendrick Street, right up from the present-day Acme Market. As you walk up Hendrick Street, you'll see a dozen homes on either side of the street. Well, they were built and a reward for those who were beginning executives in Keasbey and Madison. Homes were also constructed in another part of Ambler for the foremen of the various plants in these Keasbey and Madison's factories. The foremans would live on Church Street. A series of stone homes, all linked together, later to be called a row home, were constructed and rewarded to these foremen. So at the time, just about everyone in Ambler either worked for Keasbey and Madison or they served the workers that were employed by Keasbey and Madison. So some stores, markets, clothing stores, those would be constructed in order to serve the workers in the asbestos plant. Now, moving out of Ambler, you'll find that the community that now encompasses Wissahickon School District is made up of a number of townships, one of which is Whitpain Township. So if you head out Butler Avenue toward the intersection of Butler Avenue and Route 73, you'll come into a community called Broadaxe. Now, many of these communities were named after the inns or taverns that existed back in the 17 and 1800s. The Broadaxe Tavern at the intersection of Butler Pike and Route 73 or Skippack Pike is where Broadaxe got its name. However, the homes in Broadaxe Village, again, beautiful stone homes that were constructed in the 1950s, were built by two brothers whose last name was Mercaldo. Mercaldo Construction Company, their sons and daughters all went through Wissahickon High School. And Mary Mercaldo, she graduated in 1970. Her older brother John, he graduated in 1968. The Mercaldo family participated in the bands and the sports teams in Wissahickon for a number of years. The Mercaldo brothers also constructed a number of homes in Fort Washington. And again, these beautiful stone homes still exist today. Route 73 or Skippack Pike is interesting in that when it first started out, it was a cow path like many of the other roads. It was unpaved, and carts and wagons and horses. Farmers would herd their cattle up and down Skippack Pike. But when it became paved, it became one of the first turnpikes in this area. Now, turnpike, where did that term come from? You think about getting on the Pennsylvania Turnpike in Fort Washington and traveling to Pittsburgh or traveling to Allentown. The word turnpike came back into the 1800s when they first paved a road, and in order to pay for the paving of the road, they would charge a fee. That practice exists today, but the term turnpike originates from the toll booth and the manner in which they collected the money. A huge tree would be cut and the branches taken from it, so it would be a round pole or a pike, and that was laid across the paved road so that the horses and wagons and even cattle would have to stop in order to pay a toll. When the log or the pike were turned so it would move off of the road's surface, then the wagon could continue after paying its toll. You head further up 73, you'll see a marker before you get into the intersection of Penland Bluebell Pike and Route 73, and it is the naming of the town Bluebell. Bluebell was formerly named Pigeontown, and the origin of the word Pigeontown, which seems odd to us today, was dedicated to the migration of these passenger pigeons that are extinct in today's world, but would migrate to this area, make their nests in trees, and there were thousands of them that would take up this area around what is presently Bluebell. And of course, the Bluebell Inn, that was founded in 1743, is a popular restaurant today, and a restaurant that is the center of the community, and the community has expanded beyond the restaurant to include small developments that once were occupied by farms. One of the farms was a dairy farm owned by the Zimmermans. And the Zimmermans, again, their children went to Ambler High and Wissahickon High. They had one of the larger dairy farms in Whitpain Township. Whitpain Township, 100 years ago, was primarily a community of farmland, some very large farms and some smaller farms. But there was a collection of farms called Normandy Farms that was owned by a millionaire who came from Germany. His name was Strasbourg. He later owned the Norristown Times-Herald newspaper, and there were 8 farms that took up 500 acres in Whitpain Township. This collection of farms was known as Normandy Farms. The name still exists today, and it is a retirement community called Normandy Farms Estates. At the intersection of Morris Road and Route 202, there is a huge stone building with a wall about 8 feet tall, painted white, that surrounds this community. It is also the location of Coleman's Restaurant. That home was the home of Mr. Strasbourg.
This ends Episode 2 of Wissahickon School District's Community Connections. Please tune in to Episode 3. Thank you.